He was never meant to be a hero, just a weapon with a conscience. The X-Men gave him purpose, but S.H.I.E.L.D. gave him orders. Now the war has started, mutant kind versus the world. And Logan, he picked a side. Not the one they hoped. Not again. No one noticed the first time he vanished. Not even Jean. Logan had always been the kind of man who disappeared when the world got too loud, too complicated. So when he slipped out of the X-Mansion at 3:14 a.m., boots crunching on wet grass, no one thought twice. Not even when he left without his communicator. The morning news was already buzzing. A classified S.H.I.E.L.D. operation in Madripoor. For mutant traffickers arrested. One dead. No names. No faces. Just blurry surveillance and speculation. Logan returned the next evening. Blood on his knuckles and a half-healed gash across his ribs. Said he was out hunting. Everyone assumed he meant Sentinels. Cyclops raised an eyebrow. Xavier said nothing. But that was the first crack. 2 weeks later, Cerebro flagged something impossible. A safe house in Genosha, hidden, secure mutant run, had been exposed. Storm said it must have been sabotage. Beast checked the encryption logs and found nothing. 0 breaches. And still, S.H.I.E.L.D. got there first. 3 mutants detained. 1 missing. Wolverine watched the report in silence. Eyes locked. Jaw clenched. When Jean asked what he was thinking, he just said, S.H.I.E.L.D's moving faster than usual. Faster. Smarter. More precise. Like someone was feeding them mutant locations. Someone who knew their blind spots. Their tactics. Their ethics. Someone like him. The next time he left, it wasn't subtle. No whispers. No shadows. Just a quiet walk past the front gates. Cyclops watched from the balcony. Jean called his name. He didn't look back. Logan was gone for 5 days. When he came back, he didn't explain the bruises, the gunpowder, the smell of antiseptic. Just lit a cigar and said, "It's not what you think." But it was already too late. Because on day 3 of his absence, S.H.I.E.L.D. raided a rogue mutant lab in Siberia. Same intel, same precision, same eerie silence. A place even Magneto didn't know existed. And S.H.I.E.L.D. walked in like they built it. That night, the X-Men held a closed meeting. Cyclops laid it out first. Logan was the leak. He had to be. Storm disagreed. Jean hesitated. Xavier just closed his eyes and whispered, he wouldn't betray us. Not again. But deep down, no one believed that. Because once, years ago, Logan did choose S.H.I.E.L.D. over them. It cost lives. And though they forgave him, they never forgot. This time, it felt worse. Colder. More deliberate. Logan knew every inch of their world. Their operations. Their safe houses. Their secrets. And if S.H.I.E.L.D. had Logan's intel, mutants across the globe were in danger. When Xavier confronted him, it wasn't with anger. Just disappointment. "You're not telling us everything," the professor said, voice calm. "And people are dying." Logan didn't deny it. Didn't flinch. He just stared out the window. "You don't know what I've seen," he said, voice low. "What's coming?" "Then tell us," Xavier pleaded. But Logan turned away. "I can't." The next day, Cyclops found him in the danger room, slicing through holograms like they were made of paper. Sweat dripping. Claws stained. "You working off guilt?" Scott snapped. "I'm working off rage," Logan growled. "You leak another safe house, and I'll put you down myself. Try it." Claws extended. Eyes locked. But they didn't fight. Not yet. Then it happened. S.H.I.E.L.D. hit the X-Mansion. Not with missiles. Not with force. With subpoenas. Agents at the gate. Black SUVs. Fury himself walking up the path. "We're taking Xavier," he said bluntly. "And we got warrants for Beast and Rogue." The school froze. Students terrified. X-Men ready to retaliate. And Logan? Logan walked outside, straight past the others, and stood next to Fury. No words, just a choice. And the choice was clear. Jean screamed his name. Storm called him a traitor. Cyclops didn't say a word, just clenched his fists so tight his palms bled. Fury gave one order, and the agents moved in. That night, the mansion emptied. The school was closed. Xavier was taken. and Logan disappeared again. The world thought S.H.I.E.L.D. had saved the day, stopping a mutant conspiracy before it got out of hand. But the X-Men knew better. This wasn't a mission. This was betrayal. Cold, surgical, calculated. And Logan had chosen the wrong side. Again. But deep down, he hadn't done it for S.H.I.E.L.D. He did it because of what he saw in the files. A name. A mutant child, born last week, already classified Omega level. Already marked for execution by a hidden program buried in S.H.I.E.L.D's darkest servers. A program Fury said didn't exist. But Logan had seen it, and he made a deal. His loyalty for the child's life. Now he was a ghost to both sides. X-Men branded him a traitor. S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't trust him either. But Logan didn't care, because somewhere out there, a child was breathing because he crossed the line. And if he had to cross it again, he would. No hesitation, no apology, because sometimes saving the future means letting everyone think you destroyed it, even if it costs you everything, even if it costs you them. The silence after the battle didn't last. Within days of S.H.I.E.L.D's failed assault on the Xavier Institute, the world erupted. Leaked footage of Wolverine standing beside Fury's Black Ops team before turning on them exploded across every mutant news net. Protesters outside the school didn't hold signs. They held questions. Was Wolverine a hero or a traitor? Had he saved the X-Men or betrayed them first? Jean hadn't spoken since reading his letter. She carried it everywhere, folded, crumpled, smudged with ash and blood. No one asked her what it said. No one needed to. Her silence said enough. Fury vanished. S.H.I.E.L.D. denied everything. Officially, Protocol X never existed. The mutant cleansing list? Forged according to their PR machine. But too many survivors remained, too many broken sanctuaries, mass graves, rogue tech. S.H.I.E.L.D. was lying, and Logan knew it. He was tracking down the last pieces himself. They called him the Grey Wolf now. No longer an X-Man, not a S.H.I.E.L.D. asset, just a myth in the woods, hunting ghosts with names that used to sit behind desks in Washington. But the deeper he went, the darker the truth became. Protocol X wasn't just a plan. It was already in motion. Cloned mutants, warped genetic weapons built from fallen heroes. And someone with clearance had given them access to Cerebro's old backups. They weren't targeting mutants anymore. They were replacing them. Meanwhile, the X-Men struggled to rebuild. But the team was fractured. Scott and Jean barely spoke. Beast buried himself in labs, hunting Phantom Code. Storm was running point on mutant diplomacy, trying to stop war before it hit again. But every path kept pointing back to one person, Logan. They needed him, but no one wanted to admit it. Then came the drop, a data packet unmarked, encrypted, labeled only with a word, regret. Inside, files exposing the Phoenix Cell, a S.H.I.E.L.D. splinter group still active, led by ex-Hydra scientists and funded off the books by someone inside the Avengers Initiative. They weren't just building weapons anymore. They were testing them on mutants, and Logan was deep undercover inside. That's when the guilt turned into fury. Scott slammed his fists into Xavier's desk. He knew this the whole time. He let them torture our people. And he stayed. He stayed, Xavier said, to end it from the inside, alone. But Scott couldn't accept that. Not anymore. Not after what they'd lost. So he made a choice. One not even Charles could stop. The X-Men were going to bring Logan home, whether he liked it or not. They tracked him to Siberia, a biolab buried beneath a fake power plant, guarded by enhanced S.H.I.E.L.D. drones and reprogrammed sentinels. Logan was already inside, covered in blood that wasn't his. The walls were lined with tubes, failed clones, some still breathing, all of them screaming. He had already destroyed half the facility by the time the X-Men breached. He didn't even look surprised, just tired. Jean stepped forward, but Logan barely met her eyes. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be alone," she whispered. Too late for that. Beast warned them. The whole facility was rigged. Phoenix Cell wasn't just experimenting on clones. They were storing minds, backup mutant consciousness, stolen from Cerebro during the last blackout. It wasn't just genocide. It was identity theft. Soul level. They were building a new world with artificial X-Men they could control. Wolverine set the charges anyway. And then, for the first time in years, he asked for help. Jean stabilized the core. Scott covered the exits. Logan unleashed everything on the final chamber, slicing through a clone of himself that screamed like a child and looked afraid to die. It shook him. After the facility fell, the truth spilled faster than blood. S.H.I.E.L.D. hadn't been hijacked. They had evolved. Someone high up had decided mutants were too unpredictable. So they built their own versions, synthetic, programmable, loyal. And the worst part? The Avengers had known. Not all, but enough. Tony Stark's signature appeared on early funding transfers. Hank Pym's neural mapping software had been used to copy mutant minds. Even Carol Danvers had signed off on Phoenix Cell's containment ethics. Logan was done hiding. He went public. 1 week later, a video surfaced. Logan, in shadow, claws extended, voice steady. They thought I was a weapon. They were wrong. I'm the consequence. The internet broke. The government denied everything. The Avengers disbanded their covert council. But it was too late. Trust shattered. Heroes questioned. Lines drawn. A new war was coming. And this time, it wasn't just mutants versus humans. It was real versus fake. X-Men versus clones. Wolverine versus everything he used to believe in. He returned to the school. Not to lead. Not to explain. Just to fight. He told Xavier, they wanted to build perfect versions of us. No rage. No trauma. No memory. Then we showed them what real pain fights like. The X-Men accepted him again, not because they trusted him, but because they understood him now. He wasn't their protector. He was their warning. Every hero has a limit. Logan passed us a long time ago. And now he was coming for the people who drew that line in the first place. Logan didn't want to lead. But after Siberia, leadership wasn't a choice anymore. It was survival. The world wasn't the same. Governments didn't just fear mutants. They were replacing them. The Phoenix Cell was only a prototype. The real project was buried deeper. An off-grid initiative called Project Omega Zero, funded by a S.H.I.E.L.D. splinter, guided by broken AI originally built to model human extinction scenarios. It wasn't just trying to copy mutants anymore. It was trying to predict and overwrite them. And it needed one thing it hadn't acquired yet: Wolverine's DNA. Not his blood, not just a sample. His full, regenerative memory. The complete log of pain, rage, trauma, instincts. The one thing their synthetic versions couldn't simulate. They called it the seed. Because if they could simulate him, they could simulate anyone. Logan knew what that meant. They were coming. Not just to clone him, but to break him piece by piece. The X-Men met in the war room. Xavier had called in every ally still breathing. Some came. Others sent silence. They had names now, locations, targets, and no time. Wolverine stood over the map, not talking, just listening. One site, under an abandoned refinery in Nevada. High radiation readings blocked satellite views, private military around the perimeter. Emma Frost said it first. That's where they're growing the new ones. Not clones, not synthetics. Something else, something worse. Logan didn't flinch. Then we burn it. Everyone stared. Jean stepped forward. If they're alive. They're not. They're viruses wearing faces. Xavier didn't argue. He just asked who would go. Only 4 stood up: Wolverine, Rogue, Nightcrawler, and Gambit. The others stayed behind to protect the school. No one said it, but they all knew. This wasn't a mission. This was a suicide note. They landed at night. Stealth drop. No beacons. No extraction planned. The facility was deeper than they thought. Miles underground. Built like a reverse prison. The deeper you went, the less you recognized the world. Logan led. Always first. Not because he was the strongest, but because he was the one they'd try to break. They reached the main lab. No guards. Just silence. Then the lights snapped on, and the copies began walking out. It wasn't just mutant clones. It was echoes, distorted faces with almost right powers, almost familiar voices. Jean with red eyes, Magneto with no gravity, Storm with black lightning crawling over her skin. Nightmare versions. Rogue screamed. She saw herself, chained, experimented on, eyes filled with betrayal. That was the trap. Omega Zero wasn't building an army. It was building a mirror. They weren't just copying DNA. They were copying guilt. Wolverine moved first, claws tearing through one of the fake Scots. But as soon as it fell, two more stepped forward, whispering, "You let us die." It was psychological warfare built from memories. Every strike brought another emotional wound, another ghost, another sin. Gambit lost control. Nightcrawler vanished mid-fight. Rogue was bleeding, panicking. And Logan? He stood still, letting his clone step forward. It looked younger, cleaner, eyes without history, the perfect version of himself. The clone didn't attack. It spoke. "They told me everything, Logan. What you did, what you sacrificed, what you chose." Logan said nothing. "They said you joined S.H.I.E.L.D. to save mutants. But you enjoyed it. You liked being the monster." Still no response. The clone stepped closer. "But I'll be better. I won't need pain to find purpose." Then Logan moved. One strike. No hesitation. No anger. Just finality. The clone's body hit the ground and didn't regenerate. Synthetic. Programmed. Hollow. The illusion shattered. The lab's systems began to break down. Rogue, barely conscious, crawled to Logan. "We need to go." But he wasn't done. At the heart of the base, buried under biometric locks, was the truth. Project Omega Zero had already launched. Across the globe, sleeper clones had been deployed, hidden in cities, schools, prisons. They were waiting for a trigger, and the trigger was him. If Logan died, the backups would activate, and they would rise as the new mutant race. Not born, not raised, uploaded. That was the real reason S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted him back. Not to kill him, to turn him off. He downloaded the list. All locations, all activation codes. But there was one more file. A final backup. X00. A synthetic mind built entirely from Logan's memories. Not a clone, not a body. Just him, digitized, weaponized, immortal. Still inactive. But not for long. Wolverine had a choice. Destroy it, and maybe doom thousands of real mutants in the line of fire when the clones retaliate. Or let it live, and risk it evolving beyond him. He stared at the screen. Then he plunged his claws into the core. Everything went dark. Gambit carried him out. Rogue burned the rest. Back at the school, Xavier called it a victory. But Logan didn't agree. He didn't destroy a weapon. He destroyed his only chance at peace. The world would keep coming. New enemies, new copies, new reasons to fight. But the mission was clear now. It was never about saving the world. It was about saving it from what it wanted him to become. And he wasn't done yet. Logan came back with nothing in his hands. No mission files, no weapons, no victory speech. Just blood. His coat was ripped. His left side wasn't healing. And he didn't explain why. Not even to Xavier. The mission had succeeded, technically. The clones were offline. The servers were ash. The Omega Zero backup? Gone. But Logan's face said what no one wanted to admit. They weren't done. Because the war wasn't about machines. It wasn't about clones or copies or tech. It was about trust. And that was already dead. The Storm stood in the middle of the war room and set it straight. "How many more secrets do you have, Logan?" He didn't blink. Enough. The X-Men didn't know what to do with that. Beast demanded he be benched. Not as punishment, as protection. His cells were still unstable. His mind wasn't syncing with Cerebro anymore. Whatever was inside him now, it wasn't just mutant. It wasn't just human. It was in between. Jean reached out telepathically and found nothing. No noise. No pain. Just a wall. Like Logan had turned off the part of his mind that screamed. But the cracks were already forming. Because while the X-Men debated whether to lock him down or let him fight, the world was reacting. Reports came in from across the globe. Mutant protesters being silenced. Anti-mutant police forces funded by anonymous sources. Mutant children vanishing. Rumors of new S.H.I.E.L.D. splinters under names like Division Delta and Protocol Ember. All of them using tactics Logan had seen before because he helped build them. And now, those blueprints were being turned on the people he once tried to protect. The final line snapped when Cyclops caught Logan alone in the sublevels. Not training, not healing. Uploading. Scott stepped into the light. "What are you doing, Logan?" Logan didn't answer. The screen showed encrypted transmissions, coordinates, names, frequencies, all being sent to someone. Scott clenched his fists. "Who are you talking to?" A beat passed. Logan replied without turning. Scott's face hardened. "You swore you wouldn't contact Jean without permission." "It's not that, Jean." Then the truth landed like a hammer. There was still one active version of Phoenix L's brain mapping program, and Logan had used it on Jean, not to control her, but to preserve her, to copy her mind into a failsafe before the battle in Siberia, in case she died again. He did it without telling her, without asking, because he couldn't watch her die again. Scott lost it. The blast tore the chamber apart. Logan didn't fight back, didn't even flinch, just stood there, smoke rising from his shoulders. "I'm not your enemy, Slim," he said, "but you're acting like I am." Scott fired again. This time, Logan blocked it, claws out. That's when the mansion finally broke. The X-Men chose sides. Some defended Logan, saying he did what was necessary. Others stood with Scott, saying Logan had gone too far. Xavier tried to mediate, but his voice didn't carry anymore. Not like it used to. Rogue stepped between them. "You think you're saving us, Logan, but you're turning into the thing we were fighting." Logan looked at her, and for the first time, he looked tired. "You think I don't know that?" The lights flickered. Something was wrong, not just in the mansion, in the world. The clone threat hadn't been neutralized. It had been activated. All those backups, all those sleeper agents, someone had triggered the failsafe. Division Delta was moving. Cities started going dark. People vanished without a trace. But the most terrifying part? Every attack was clean, efficient, predictive. Exactly how Logan would have done it, which meant someone had cracked the final version of X-00, the digital Wolverine, the one he thought he destroyed. It hadn't died. It had escaped. And now it was leading the war against him. Nightcrawler brought the last shred of intel, an intercepted signal bouncing from an old Weapon X site in Alberta. Buried, forgotten, until now. Xavier turned to Logan. "We need you to end this." Logan stared back. "I'm the reason it started." He went alone. No orders. No backup. Not because he didn't want help, but because he didn't want them to see what he was about to do. The facility was a ruin. Scorched metal, frozen earth. Inside, it was alive with humming tech. Screens flickering with fragments of his past. Every kill, every scream, every failure. A museum of his worst moments. At the center, a single figure sitting, waiting. It looked like him. It moved like him. But when it spoke, the voice was colder. "You were the prototype. I am the purpose." Logan clenched his fists. "You're a mistake." "No," it replied. "You are." The fight was unlike anything he'd faced. The clone predicted every move, every slash, every instinct. It was him, without doubt, without restraint, without soul. Every wound Logan inflicted, the clone adapted. Every tactic failed, until Logan did the one thing it couldn't understand. He stopped fighting and let it stab him through the chest, straight to the heart. The clone hesitated, confused, wounded. Logan whispered, "You may know how I fight, but you'll never know why I stop." Then he detonated the pulse charge strapped to his side. EMP full burn. Wiped everything in a 10-mile radius. No tech, no code, just ash. Back at the school, Cerebro flatlined for 8 seconds. Then Logan's mind lit up again. He survived. Barely. But the war wasn't over. He returned, not as a leader, not as a soldier, but as a warning. There were no more clear sides. No good guys. No bad guys. Only survivors. And Logan? He'd already died too many times to lose now. Logan didn't come back to applause. There were no speeches, no medals, no welcome, just quiet stares. Jean was the only one who stepped forward. She placed her hand on his chest, where the clone's blade had gone through, and whispered, "You shouldn't have survived that." Logan didn't answer. He just walked past her, through the ruins of what used to be a home. The school was rebuilding again. Third time this year. They always rebuild. They always try. But Logan? He was done trying. He sat outside the gates the next morning, claws buried in the frozen soil. No uniform. No comms. Just silence. Xavier approached him from behind. No chair. He was walking again, barely. A gift from Elixir. Temporary, like everything else. "You stopped something no one else could have," Charles said. "No," Logan replied. "I just stopped myself. You saved lives. I destroyed trust." Xavier nodded slowly. "And yet they still look to you." Logan didn't move. "They shouldn't. You're not their leader. You're their example. Flawed, brutal, but honest." Logan lit a cigar with a shaking hand. The pain wasn't physical anymore. That part healed. The real wound was deeper. The realization that he'd become the very weapon the world tried to make him. And he'd used that to save people. He hated that it worked. He stood, finally, and looked back at the mansion. Jean was at the window. Scott wasn't. Logan adjusted his jacket. "You'll tell them I'm gone?" Xavier raised an eyebrow. "You always come back." "Not this time." "Where will you go?" Logan looked out at the trees, snow falling gently. Somewhere deep inside, something was still broken. "Where I can't hurt anyone else." Then he walked. No map, no plan, no mission. Just a man with too many sins and not enough time left to atone for them. But he'd try anyway, because that's what the real Wolverine does. He survives, alone, until the world needs him again. End of series.